Hi guys, welcome back to the podcast. I've been meaning to watch that. I'm your host Monica. We're back again. New week, new topic, new guest like we do every single week. And this week we have a very special new guest with us today. This is someone I've been following on TikTok for a while now. She is someone I love to see on my For You page. She has amazing takes. She is also the editorial head of OffColour, which is an online magazine you should absolutely check out if you're into hearing the voices of people of color about news, media, new movies, releases, and all of that great stuff. Highly recommend you check it out. And I'll also link some of her stuff down below. She is a tomato approved critic, and she is someone I cannot wait to talk to today. I would like everyone to please say hi to. I did not ask how to say your name. Should I just say Aprille?
How do you think you say it? Yeah, it's just like the month.
Oh, really? I was gonna
Just like
say
this month. You,
Aprile or Aprille.
you know how Black people are. My mom added an accent mark, thought it was silent, but here we are.
Okay, guys, say hello to Aprille. Yes.
Hi. You're much nicer to me than I would be to myself. So
I mean, I very much admire you. I think you're a really wonderful person, and honestly, like there are not many people who start going off about Harry Potter where I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna stick around for this one. I'm gonna hear what she has to say.
especially in today's climate.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Around
girl.
that.
Oh yes, absolutely. But I'm so happy to have you on, guys. Today we are going to be talking about biopics. You know, biopics, should they exist? Do we need them? We're going to be talking about biopics in particular to the Bob Marley One Love biopic, and also about a few biopics that are coming up. And we're going to give you our opinions and thoughts on that. But before we get into that, we're going to jump into our first segment, which is Media Mania, where we talk about new releases, entertainment news, and the like. And one trailer that I saw on my timeline today that I'm a little excited about is Maxine. It is Ty West's last slasher film in his trilogy that he got from A24. The prior film was X, and then there was Pearl, the prequel to X, and now Maxine is a sequel to X. So that's going to be coming very soon. It has Mia Goth, Halsey, Lily Collins. It has an amazing cast in it, honestly. And I watched the trailer and I was like, you know what? I will be seated for this one as well because I feel like Pearl was a little more like, like it's not that much murder in there until like the end, so it's kind of like a slow burn. And X was very much like he's coming out the gate, he's showing you what he got, and I feel like the last one is like very stereotypical slasher movie. So I'm excited to see what that looks like.
I am not a huge horror film buff.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of stick to the oldies. So I'm a
Yeah.
fan of our Jasons and our Freddys and
Mm-hmm.
all of those guys. But what I will say is that I think new horror is really doing something great right now. Recently I've been very excited in the with the dive into more psychological thrillers that are still kind of scary. So that has been very exciting for me. I'm interested to see what happens next. I think the piece of media that I've been most interested in recently is probably X-Men 97. Um, I am a comic fan. I'm a comic nerd. I've been one forever. It kind of runs in
Mm-hmm.
the family.
Yeah.
And I have really enjoyed watching this series. I love watching them pay due to Storm instead of just kind of like pushing her to the background. She really gets to be like an Omega level mutant. And I really like how comic book accurate it is. Also, because I am a glutton for gossip, I was very, very, very interested in the fact that the showrunner for the show was let go like 2 days before the show premiered. So
Really?
that yes, and nobody knows why. And around that same time, he also like deleted everything off of his socials. Yeah. So I'm very I would like to know. I would like to know what happened. Bo
Wow.
DeMayo. Yeah, that's his name. I would like to know what happened to him. because based on, and they already done like the whole first 2 seasons, so they must have been pretty confident in what they were working with, and it has had great reception. So I would like to know what happened to make them say cut it so quickly.
Wow. I don't want to like speculate on anything because, that's not my place. But one thing I do know is that Marvel is keeping it tight right now with the
Yeah.
shakeup they've had with Jonathan Majors. So any new projects they're having come out, they're like, this needs to be a hit. This needs to be a knockout the park. This needs to have people talking for weeks. Because there's one of their I don't know if this is a board member or whatever, but there's a guy who works with Marvel who says that he wants to oust Kevin Feige. And then Disney was like, girl, that's not going to work over here. Because he said that, like, Captain Marvel and then Black Panther were not successful and not
I
good.
remember.
And then they were like, I'm sorry, but that's not going to work over here. We actually do not care. You need to go crawl into a bed and go to sleep. Okay, Boomer, thank you.
I just I don't think that, it makes much sense to get rid of Kevin, because he's part of the reason why Marvel has been this successful in the first place. Like, the entirety of the franchise is reliant upon his decisions. So I think he's kind of bulletproof unless he does something absolutely crazy.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think that, like, there are too many people popping up now that are, like, upset over DEI. And I feel like
Mhm.
there are a lot of Marvel fans who are attributing some of the flops that Marvel is having to the rise in diversity. Like,
Even though the comics have always been incredibly diverse, like they're not
mm-hmm,
creating new characters to inject diversity. They're literally just kind of repurposing. I'm not going to say they're doing word for word, but they're
mm-hmm,
just repurposing existing comic book storylines with existing comic book characters who were, for the most part, already those ethnicities. So
mm-hmm.
it's really interesting to say that they're trying to wakeify or wokeify Marvel when it's always kind of
Been
been
that
like
way.
this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's very annoying to see, and I just find it childish and immature to have this mindset towards like the new movies and new TV shows are coming out. And me personally, I I like Marvel. I used to like love Marvel and I was like obsessed with Marvel. But now I'm just kind of putting it there like, oh, I always have something to watch if they have something there for me. And I don't even pay for Disney Plus anymore. If I purely want to watch it, like if I actually want to watch it, I will bootleg it. Like that's what I did with Loki season 2 cuz your
I
girl
didn't even watch
is
that.
counting her coins. Okay?
Like, yeah, I didn't even watch Loki season 2. I could not. It felt kind of bad, but it was just not for me.
I'm not gonna lie, I need to do a refresher on like a new Rockstars video about Loki season 2 because someone needs to explain to me why Loki became a Time Lord. Like, what's going on?
This is above me. This is above me. That's
Listen,
out of my range.
literally, literally so. But there was one story that I did see that I was kind of interested in, and I don't know if you know about this, but Jojo Siwa is coming out with new music, and she's like basically rebranding,
Oh my
and
god.
she has somehow deemed herself as leading the charge in gay pop, which I personally I feel like she is doing this on purpose to like rile people up, or it's possible that she just doesn't know, or she feels like she is creating this different era of gay pop. Like her music is different from all the other gay pop musicians, which I find to be unlikely, but we'll see what it gives.
I think so. I've actually been following this whole like saga over on TikTok because for whatever reason it just keeps popping up on my FYP.
Right.
I personally think that she actually knows how to work the algorithm perfectly. And I think that people are so used to rage reacting that they aren't paying attention to what she's doing because, like, for example, a lot of the stuff that she's saying is like, it's just to incite a reaction. People were talking about how terrible her dance moves were in the practices that she kept showing. And every time people would say that, she would like drop more behind the scenes practice. Now, do I think that there's a conversation to be had around the way that she is manipulating hip hop, and maybe that's why the dance moves don't look as great on Jojo, who's technically a classically trained dancer, as compared to some of her background dancers, absolutely. But I really think that she's just manipulating the market to increase engagement for her. It's her debut single. This is her trying to like venture into a new world, and I think she knew exactly what she was doing. But yes, I've been paying attention to Karma, and I was the bad guy. From the girl who used to run around with sequins and bows in her hair all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Me personally, I haven't really been keeping up with Jojo Siwa. The people, on TikTok have been saying she's a little problematic because I
Yes.
think she um, was rude to a fan. It's possible that the fan was disabled. I would have to double check to be
Mhm.
sure. But a lot of people are also saying that she cheated on her girlfriend, which like I don't want to speculate on because I don't know anything about this girl's life. She came out and I was like, good for you, girl, and then I blocked everything else out. And now this stuff with Jojo Siwa and her music and the makeup and the outfit and her wanting to be the next Miley Cyrus Bangers era, it is inescapable to me now. I can no longer hit not
She
interested anymore. TikTok will not let me
she
escape.
that's why I think she's really just working the algorithm. I think she knows
It,
what she's doing.
it
But
feels
she
like
went
it.
so far as to say that nobody had ever reinvented themselves as well as she has, and we know that that's crazy. So I'm just 100% sure this is she just knows what she's doing. She's doing great. I love it for her, but I'm tired of seeing it, and I can't wait for the reactions to stop now that the song is out.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Um, and there also is some news about Ryan Coogler and his new Untitled Vampire film, which nobody knows about, but the cast list has already been announced. And when I was looking at the cast this morning, I was like, okay, the same way I'm gonna be in that theater for Challengers, I'm gonna be in that theater for this one because I don't know what he's gonna do. I'm excited.
Ryan Coogler has never done Ryan Coogler has never done a film without Michael B. Jordan, so we know he's in it.
He was the first person
Absolutely.
casted in the movie.
Is Octavia Spencer on this list?
I don't know if she is. I would have to double check and see. I do know that I don't know how to say her last name, but she was in Shrill, I believe. She was in Shrill. And she was also in Loki. That's where most people know her from. And she's been casted in this movie. That was a new
Ooh.
development, yeah.
Ooh.
Also,
What
there
I will say
is.
is,
Oh, go ahead.
oh, they got Lindo. They got Delroy Lindo.
Yeah. And Jack O'Connell,
What
which
I
I'm
will say
very
about this,
excited for.
I don't know if I'm excited for the film only because Ah, vampires, black vampires in the Jim Crow era South, and I think sometimes it's hard for me to suspend my disbelief in situations like that because if I was a black vampire in Jim Crow era South, we wouldn't have to deal with racism anymore.
Mm.
I feel like I can handle that. So I don't know. I think I'm interested in it. I think I'm less excited than I have been about some of his other projects.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think that this is kind of following in the same vein of Lovecraft Country. And even though there aren't many
Mhm.
details out about it, it does give me like Octavia Butler vibes. So I am
Mhm.
open to it. I always do love it when black creatives make movies, TV shows, like anything in general that is outside of the norm of what people see as like black entertainment. So usually people expect like a show with six different 12-year-olds trying to figure out life. Like there's Harlem, there's Insecure, there's Girlfriends. There are a number of shows on BET Plus that are like that. I think Sisters
Mhm.
and Brothers. I don't know if it's Brothers or like
Yeah, the
Bruh
Tyler
is the show.
Perry originals.
Yes, and there's
Yeah.
always a black TV show with the matriarch, the dad, the son who is like either stupid or a sports player, and the daughter who's either a nerd or she's like really sassy. You know what I mean? And it's
The
just
standard
like,
formula.
yes, the standard black family you see in all of these shows. And I love it when Black creatives make something that's completely different. You know, like one show I loved on Netflix was Astronomy Club, which was a all Black sketch group, and they had their own show on
Yeah.
Netflix. And I'm very sad that it was short lived because I would have to say it was very funny and I enjoyed it a lot. And I would say I liked it more than Black Lady Sketch Show. And I do wish that like the show lived long enough so that it would have been like, you know, the cast could have like met or like, you know, done an interview together or something like that. Like I would have liked that. But um I'm just saying open to the idea because I feel like Ryan Coogler is such a talented director and writer. And I do trust in his like creative vision for the most part. And I'm always
Mhm.
open to seeing more budding Black directors take, you know, hold of Hollywood and be recognized for their work. So I'm
I
excited to
can agree
see.
with that. I can agree with that.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for it. And I'm also very excited for challengers, like I already said, because
Yeah.
the press tour started.
I I was supposed to go, but it was such short notice. They have an event today and then one tomorrow, I think.
Hmm.
And it was just such short notice. I didn't have time, but I'm very excited for that film. Hmm.
One day, Zendaya. One day,
I
I.
would love to meet.
Oh my gosh, how wonderful would that be? I would not even know what to say. I would just be like, "Hi." She'd be like, "Hello," and I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, you're amazing," and that would be it. Like,
She gives me such down to earth vibes. So I
yes,
think she would be fun to talk to.
yes,
100%.
absolutely so. And I'm also excited for a new show on Amazon Prime that's coming out called Fallout. I think it's supposed to come out pretty soon. I'm going to go to a screening tomorrow, which I'm very excited about
Ooh.
because I don't usually like go to screenings that often, so this is gonna be fun for me. And also, I'll have like a review up on either my TikTok or on the podcast Instagram page before this episode comes out. That way, people can see it and like, you know, hear my thoughts. I don't want to spoil anything.
I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Mm-hmm.
So like this is the one. I don't do video games like that. So this is the one based off the video game, all right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard absolutely nothing but good things about it. A lot of people are really excited about it. I heard it's very faithful, which
Mm.
I know some people struggle with like faithful adaptations when it comes to video game adaptations specifically. I think some of the biggest complaints were about the Halo show, and then there was the movie with Tom Holland. Dang,
Uncharted.
I cannot remember the name of that. Nathan Drake.
Uncharted.
Sorry, yes, I
Yeah.
remember the character. Yeah, there were some complaints about how unrealistic that was, and I always think that's so funny because like it's a video game.
Right.
Like it's a video game.
Mm-hmm.
How factual do we need to be? But yeah,
Right.
I've heard really, really, really good things about Fallout.
I
Yeah, I think
honest. No, I was just gonna say I can't wait because I love the lead actress. She's also in Yellow Jackets, and I'm happy that she's doing things.
mhm. Yeah, I think outside of you have so much outside of X-Men. I feel like I'm looking forward to Bridgerton. But that's just because Bridgerton has like a general air of excitement
Mm.
and fun in the air. I think it's and I think a lot of people are complaining about it, but I think a spring release is good for this season of Bridgerton. And then I also am interested in the fact that they chose to split this season into two halves, and I wonder why they did that because that's the first time they've done that. So I'm wondering if they're going to be telling us two separate stories in one season, and maybe that's why they chose to do that. But yeah, I've been kind of like, I don't want to say I'm in a media rut, but I think we kind of mentioned it earlier. I don't know that there's that much new right happening. It seems like there are a lot of let's remake this or let's revisit this, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm somebody who really likes to find something new and invigorating, and as that's been a struggle for me lately.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. I think that I would say there are a lot of new stuff, but they don't really get like the spotlight when it comes to
Mm,
like press. A lot of times when you hear about new things, they have to have like really big names attached to it. And
yeah,
most of
that's
the
true.
time, yeah, most of the time like remakes are the things that get like the most noise. And it's mainly
It's
people
the
talking about how much they don't like remakes, which is like, babe, talk about something else then. Like, we're hungry.
if we
And
stop talking about how much we don't like it, then maybe they'll stop making them.
yeah.
Maybe that's the secret.
Also, I didn't know that the next season of Bridgerton is going to be split into two.
It is. So the first half is going to release in May, and
Mm-hmm.
then I think that the second half releases in darn. First half May 16th, and then the second half June. The second half is June. So it's only a month. But like as somebody who is semi-familiar with the way that Netflix release patterns work, I think that's weird. I don't know how many episodes they're releasing in the first half versus the second. I'm sure there is a Bridgerton super fan who does know this. I'm not the one. I'm just kind of like a casual observer. But um I don't know. I just think it's weird that they're gonna do two parts. And I think the reason why I think it's two parts and I think there are two stories is because of how intertwined. Do you watch Bridgerton?
I I'm gonna be so real with you. Um, I actually am not a huge fan of Bridgerton, and it's one of those shows that I watch purely for the podcast. Like, I'll have a guest, and like we've done this. Like, we do the initial video call where I bring a guest on, and I'm like, "So, what would you like to talk about?" And then I've had guests come on and like, "I love Bridgerton," and immediately I'm like, "So, do you like anything else?" Oh yeah, and so I've seen season 1 and season 2. I don't plan on watching season 3. I drew the line at season 2 because I'm not gonna be on. I'm gonna be very honest. As much as I love Simone Ashley, the slow burn was killing me. Like, I was honestly ready to just like die.
Well, as somebody who read all these books like multiple times, I started reading romance, specifically historical romance, when I was like a kid. So way
Mm-hmm.
before I was supposed to. I knew it was a slow burn. I didn't really love what they did with the romance aspect. It was far more tangled in the show than it
Yeah.
was in the books. And I kind of didn't like that because it made me feel like Kate and Anthony were like not great people because a lot of what they were doing was behind her sister's back, and it was just like, wow. And whereas in the books she kind of like, she doesn't want to marry Anthony either, her sister doesn't want to marry Anthony either, and they're
Oh.
just kind of like, yeah, it's a different story.
Hmm.
And I didn't really love the change because I feel like it made, and she also figures out earlier on, like before they get to the wedding ceremony, that there might be some romantic tension between
Okay.
Kate.
See, and that's when I knew, when they kept
Yeah.
doing the things, the little glances or whatever, and homegirl was sitting there
Mm-hmm.
like not even noticing it, and then like
Yeah.
Miss the I forgot her name, but like the sickening black lady who's always there and
Oh
doesn't
my
have a
god.
man.
Yeah, because he's dead. Did you watch Queen Charlotte?
Yes, I did, and I'm mad because they had her shack up with an old white man and then an old
Yeah,
black man before that. Y'all can't let dark skinned
yeah.
women have anything.
They yeah.
Nothing.
Um, oh my god. I feel like, so I'm not, like I said, I'm not really a Bridgerton super fan. So
Yeah.
like I know exactly who you're talking about. I literally know her name is on the tip of my tongue, but I just
Yeah.
cannot push it out right now. But yes, like she caught on to it really quick, and then like everybody else is just like kind of oblivious, and that was crazy to me. So I was not a big fan of that, but and I'm also not a big fan of Penelope and Colin's story, even from the books. I'd be interested to see how they kind of like revisit that and twist it around. But I am, I continue to, it's kind of like my, those shows that you watch just for like, this is an easy watch. I don't have to think too hard. I just kind of like need something to enjoy for a little bit. I think that's what Bridgerton is for me. This is simple and easy, and it has feel good moments. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah.
For me, I feel like those shows are Heartstopper and Dairy Girls. Like, I'll rewatch those shows all the
Mm-hmm.
time. But Bridgerton, I try, like, the first season, I think even then, I was like, I just need to watch this so I can finish it and no one can spoil it for me. Because by the time, like, Anthony forced um, Mr. Mr. Jean
Simon.
to, yeah, Simon to marry his sister, I was like, what? And then they shack up together. And then she's like, I want kids. He's like, I don't want kids. She's like, okay, I'm fine with that. It's like, no, girl, you're not. You're not fine with it.
Unfortunately.
No. And then that scene happened. And I'm like, Shonda, now we already learned from Scandal that we should not be doing this. And here we are yet again. You think because you're not on ABC, you can pull this? What is this?
Yeah. Yeah, she said, I'm not on ABC. Let me have some fun.
No.
Let me see what I can do
today. And I know that's why he left. They may say there were creative differences. No, because if you have me in one of the biggest new shows, and that's my first endeavor, and people see that happen, trust and believe. You're going to hear what I have to say.
On the flip side, though, he has really, Renee has really been able to skyrocket, I guess, off of that, to the point where he didn't even stay for the, the next season, because they were supposed to have him on season 2 as kind of like a reoccurring character, and he was like, no, I'm out of here. So he got out of it what he needed to get out of it, and I will always respect that.
Now the Bridgerton sisters walking around with the baby.
Yeah.
That baby don't even look mixed. Where did they get that baby?
That's a great question. An open casting call, I guess.
Yes.
You love Dairy Girls, but you're not gonna watch this. This is Nicola's season. Yeah.
I want better for her. I already know what's gonna happen, though. I already know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I feel like we all know, And I would love to be surprised.
It's a guaranteed
happiness. I don't want happiness for her with him. Okay? He went back to the girl he was hung up on in season 1 and season 2, and she had a baby and a husband. And why'd you go back, Colin? Why?
And then I have a lot. I'm also watching this season because I hope that Shonda puts her miraculous hands on it and kind of rectifies some of the bigger issues that I had with the book, because the book is kind of, I know some people don't see it like this, but as a plus size girl, for me, the book kind of gave a little bit of fat phobia, which I've always found interesting, because in Regency era, Penelope's body type was the ideal. So I always found it interesting that Penelope was so uncomfortable with her shape, which I guess I get from like internalized, hatred or fat phobia from her mother and her sisters. But the rest of the world should have been very affirming to her body type. She should have been very desirable. And I think the book really leaned into the fat phobia that would have been present during the time period that it was written, which was the 80s or the 90s, as opposed to what would have been the reality. So I hope that Shonda kind of like fixes that a lot. Yeah, because that's a part of my whole thing, because Colin in the books doesn't notice Penelope until she has kind of lost a little bit of weight, which makes her more confident in herself. And it's a lot. It's a lot. And I don't love that message. So
she might change that, since the original writer for the Bridgerton books, which I learned through like my research for the other podcast I did on it, she did not write any like diverse characters because she didn't know how to. And then Shonda was like, well, in Shondaland, we like a little bit of everything. Okay,
something.
We like a little bit of everything, but for some reason there are no queer people in this show.
No.
Well, no. The brother.
Yeah, but what I will say about this is that I've heard, don't take this with a grain of salt, Netflix, please don't sue me. I have heard rumors on the street that this season kind of does like maybe introduce or expand upon the queerness of a character. I have heard this. If that is not true, do not say I said it. I didn't. But I've heard that they actually do this season, and that would probably be all Shonda's doing. So yeah. Maybe we'll see. I don't have any screeners yet for Bridgerton. Usually we do get them though, so we will see.
I mean, obviously people are thinking either like Eloise or the older brother, and I think it's probably going to be the older brother, since they gave Eloise like 11 season 2.
That's why I think that season 3 is split into two parts. I think because Penelope and Eloise's story have always been so like closely intertwined, I think that they're gonna kind of like keep going that route and explore more of Eloise's story, or at least their relationship, which I would be interested in seeing as well. A
Yeah.
focus on female friendship would be, it'd be nice to see.
Yeah.
You don't get to see it often.
I agree with you on that. I feel like that would be a lot of fun, and that would be
Mm.
great. But I guess we'll have to wait until Bridgerton season 3 to see what
Yeah.
happens, which will be coming in May. Also, they did that with Young Royals, the newest season that just came out. They split it into two
Mm.
as well, which I haven't watched yet, but I do plan on watching. I
Well, maybe
cannot
that's
wait.
maybe that's Netflix's new plan then.
I don't like
Maybe
that.
that, yeah, but maybe that's how they're, I don't know, maybe they're trying to break up the watch everything at once standard. I'd be
Then
interested to see.
just do weekly releases. Like,
And maybe like listen, we're probably going to wind our way back to there. They're reinventing cable with all the streaming networks like combining into one. So that's probably exactly where we're going. We're going right back to weekly releases. Hmm.
girl, it makes no sense. But you know what else doesn't make sense? All these freaking biopics. Because what the heck is going on? So
Yeah.
guys, there have been a number of biopics being released in the years, and I honestly just want to dive into it because I am someone who does not like biopics. I love a documentary. I love an autobiography. I love learning about people. I love learning about people's process and where they came from and their story. Like, I'll dive deep. I love lore. Like, give me all the exposition you need. I'll take it in. But biopics are like probably my least favorite kind of films that are so popular and coming out right now. And to be perfectly honest, I had planned on making a YouTube video about the Bob Marley biopic because I just didn't see why they did it that way. You know what I mean? But biopics have been around for like a long time. You know, it's not
I
anything
think
new. It's just more popular now.
I think so. No, they're definitely not new. I think
Mm,
that they have kind of had like a resurgence over the
yeah.
last couple of decades, specifically the last 2 decades, I guess. I think a long time ago they were kind of like they were like cheesy, right? A long time ago, and now they're kind of like gaining respect and are becoming more popular, which I do find interesting. And I think I would reckon that we would I would put the nail on the head as like maybe Capote, the film that they did about Capote,
Mm,
or maybe even Lincoln. So I think when they started really tackling like political figures or high profile political figures, that's when people started to really, and with the level of drama that they imparted on films like Capote and Lincoln, I think that's when people really started to take like biopics seriously as an art form. So as opposed to like doing like the really, because what they used to be back in the days, like these really long films which covered like every aspect of a person's life up till death. And I think what those films did that kind of changed the medium was focusing on a time period in a person's life that is supposed to be like critical for
mm-hmm.
their development, their overall expansion, right? Which, when done right, is great because you get to really delve into that person. You get to learn, hopefully, more truth about that person. But I think specifically as it relates to like characters like Bob Marley, I don't know if that really works well it with musicians in general, right? I think that it's
Yeah.
kind of a to shrink a
Yes.
musician's process into like this one specific moment,
Right.
um, like you can with a politician, probably.
Mm-hmm. I do agree with you on that. And you're right. Biopics with Lincoln, which was a stellar film, and that was a film that actually like really stood out among many other films
Mhm.
that came out that year, especially because of how long it took David Day Lewis to like make that film. Um, a lot of times biopics, well, the original thought behind biopics was really to have like a deeper understanding of these people, these legends, these icons that we know and admire and love. They live these amazing lives, and you want to take the time to understand them more, to see their process, to learn more about them, and to experience them more. It's a way of like humanizing them and bringing them down to earth. But there are so many impactful people in the world. And of course, there are people who probably genuinely want to share other stories. But then there are people who don't view celebrities really as like people, but that just view them as like the
Oh,
icon. Yeah, they view them as like,
yeah,
something that's separated from all of us. And they want to uphold that
something to
image,
consume.
something to consume. Exactly. And they want to uphold that image even in like their passing. There aren't many biopics that are made
Mm-hmm.
about people who are still around today. Usually they're made about, tragic figures in history or just beloved figures in history. And they
Yeah.
want to be able to epitomize who they are through screen and through film. And oftentimes, like, to
And
be, I don't feel like a lot of times studios do this with their best intentions. I'm sure, like, they feel like, oh, if we just cut out all the not safe for work parts of this person's life, then it'll be fine. But sometimes they glamorize that stuff as well, you
hmm
know? And it's very
I
strange to
think,
see like how they paint this person's life.
yeah, and I think you said something that really stuck out to me. Like sometimes they glamorize these what we might consider otherwise negative aspects of a person, and I always find that interesting about I always want to say biopics. I always find that interesting about biopics, because what like in the news when these people were alive and we were writing stories about them in the news, what was sensational and terrible and like, oh my god, how could that person do that? It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of painted as like this daring, oh my God, we love that for them. And then the reason why that stuck out to me was because they kind of did the opposite for that with Bob Marley. I know
Yeah.
you said that you haven't really watched it right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But so with Bob Marley, the One Love movie, it feels like they kind of sanitized him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or more importantly, they kind of tried to separate his legacy of working to heal Jamaican politics from his music. And
Mm-hmm.
I like those two things were so directly intertwined
Right.
that I have no idea why they would make that choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, the film is like right after he leaves Jamaica, after he is shot and Rita is shot. So he goes to London, and even in the film, he's arrested for like racial profiling. He's arrested for racial profiling, but like he is like basically just peaceful and hassle free and like he just is recording his album. It's Exodus, the Exodus album. He's recording Exodus and like it's just like where is Bob? Who is he? Like that man was a militant who just happened to become like a pop idol. So I yeah. It feels like they missed all the contradictions, right? They kind of like glossed over the fact that despite the fact that he depended so heavily on Rita, right? He wound up being uh terribly unfaithful to her. If you didn't know, Bob Marley has a ton of kids
Well,
outside of his marriage with her.
girl, he's from Jamaica. What do you expect?
Yeah, pretty
These
much.
island
Yeah.
men.
But I found it so interesting how what was supposed to be a truthful glimpse into like a section of his life, which is what biopics are now, really just kind of focused on what was good in that moment, right? Um, yeah, yeah, and that is not to say that the acting was not great. Benadir,
He's a great
incredible.
actor.
Yeah, I've never seen him in a performance that he didn't do great on, and
That's exactly.
I think that he really brings life to Bob Marley in the film.
Yeah.
I think he feels like a presence in the film in a way that a lot of times is missing
Mm.
in biopics from like the main character. He's not overshadowed. He's not like he doesn't kind of play second fiddle to some of the other cast members like his bandmates or anything like that. I
Mm-hmm.
think he does a great job of letting Bob Marley shine through him. Um, but I just think that the material that he was given was not, it wasn't enough to really
Yeah.
capture who Bob really was.
And that's the thing that I don't like about biopics oftentimes because they follow the same routine of following someone's early life, hard struggle. They meet the magic music producer that changes their life. There's a montage of them, like after one successful night performing live, there's a montage of them doing a bunch of performances, and then tragedy strikes, and then they're down on their luck, and then they come back again, and they completely like kill the game. Like this is what happens in every musical biopic I saw. And this is why I didn't want to watch the Bob Marley one, because
Mhm.
I already knew that they were going to kind of like look at his life with rose colored glasses. And another thing is
Absolutely.
that I think his son was involved in the making of the
Yeah.
film. And that's why you
Yeah.
sometimes cannot have family members or people directly related to the people the film is about, because they will want to take out the parts of their life that people very much know happened, but that will paint them in a bad light because they want to
Yeah.
immortalize this hero in this film. They don't want to do
They want the
anything to smear
world
their name.
they want the world to see their family member or their loved one the way that they see them.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And unfortunately, that like there are always going to be things that you don't want to share with the world about that person, especially if that person like your father or your husband. So there are
Mm-hmm.
always going to be things that you hide, right? So the things that maybe might have actually worked to further humanize this person or to make them more sympathetic are maybe things that you don't want to share with us. And so we're over here like, wow, that's not how that happened in real life. We have the video footage right here or the news
Mm-hmm.
article right there.
Yeah.
So why did it happen like this in the film? And it's because for you seeing your loved one through like the gaze of love, basically those rose colored glasses, you maybe had deeper understanding behind that motivation because you saw what was happening behind the scenes, but you don't want to share that with us.
Right.
So we're left to wonder what else might have happened, and that kind of defeats the purpose of a biopic. If
Mm-hmm.
the goal is to get to the truth of who this person is, I then I should see all of that truth.
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, yeah.
It should be
So I think that's a
completely unfiltered.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that I had like the biggest problem with the Bob Marley biopic, and this is because I'm Haitian, is because like Bob Marley is a very well known Jamaican figure. He's a very big
Mhm.
part of Jamaican history. Like he
Mhm.
was an advocate for Pan Africanism and obviously the legalization of marijuana, but he was just a
Mhm.
great advocate overall over a lot of like political ideals. And like we know he wasn't a faithful man, as many of these black leaders were not. We don't need to get into it. But I found it very annoying that King Benedict Kingsley was cast as Bob Marley and not a Jamaican
Mhm.
person. And I love Benedict Kingsley. I think he's a really great actor. His talents were wasted in Secret Invasion.
Mhm.
You do not
Mhm.
understand how pissed I was when
Yeah.
I watched that first episode and they did my girl
Mhm.
Kobe Smulders dirty, and I was like, you know what? I'm sorry, Samuel Jackson. I cannot do it. You cannot stack this cast. It's not enough for me. Okay? If the
And then
material
kill
does not match
everybody.
up, I can't do it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Don Cheadle. I apologize. I do. You deserve better, King. You're in this franchise for too long for them to give you this. All right.
Oh.
Like I was, I was so upset. But Kingsley Benadier is like a British black man, and I know that a lot of people may like disagree with me. I really don't care. I'm going to be so plain because there have been so many Jamaican characters in popular media nowadays, whether it was Sebastian in The Little Mermaid or was the entire cast of Black Cake. And instead
Mhm.
of you guys casting actual Jamaican people to play these roles, you cast people who can do a Jamaican accent. And nothing against David Diggs because he's an amazing actor. I love him down. But it would not have been hard for Disney to find a Jamaican actor. Y'all have so much money. And for Black Cake, it would not be hard for OWN, Oprah's production company, to find black actors. And although the young girl who played the young woman in the movie, in the show, was like very talented, very good, as someone who has like parents who do not speak English, is not their first language, they have an accent. I can tell when you're faking the accent because a lot of times people would come up to me and be
Yeah.
like, "What does a Haitian accent sound like?" And they would do a Nigerian accent, and I'm like, "That's not it." And I also don't want you to do that at all. Nobody asked for that, but doing
Offensive.
it's offensive, and then also like doing a poor Jamaican accent when you're portraying a Jamaican person is a disservice to the Jamaican characters you're playing. And now you have an icon who is Jamaican, the most well known Jamaican out there, you could say, who's being played by a black British man. And I know
Mhm.
I know people want to split hairs. I don't care. Ethnicity is incredibly important when it is part of your heritage. You can be very prideful in that. And I know that a lot of Black Americans do not know where they come from. And for that, I wish y'all knew. I wish you understood your roots. And I wish that wholeheartedly. But Bob Marley, even though a lot of white people have sanitized him down to like a man who makes Rastafarian music and likes to smoke weed all day, I don't care. He was somebody that meant a lot to Jamaican people, and I don't care if his son was involved in the making of the film. Bob Marley should have been played by a Jamaican. Even though I don't like biopics and I don't think they're a strong representation of these people's lives, if you're going to make a film about Bob Marley's life, have somebody who is directly impacted by his life, have someone who would be influenced by his life, have someone who would be seen by who he is. Because let me tell you something, I don't listen to Wyclef Jean's music, but the fact that Wyclef Jean did a song with Shakira and he is Haitian, and he mentioned that in that song, listen, that meant the world to me. That meant the world to me. Even the little bit, I will take it. You know what I mean? And also, I just want to say, if they ever made a movie about Toussaint Louverture and they casted a Black American, girl, guess who's not going to see that movie?
I think this is I think this specifically happens to Black people, like across the world. I think this is a uniquely like Black experience, because I think that they see us as interchangeable, right? I think you made a very good point about the ways in which ethnicity really matters. So like for example, we have so Benedict, who I love, Kingsley Benedict, he's a great actor, but he's also been Malcolm X and he's been Obama. And you got Cynthia Erivo as Harriet Tubman, and the latest Whitney Houston movie was Naomi Aki, I think. And all of those people are very clearly like Black Americans, and the Black American experience was very important to like their overall experience, right? Going back to Kingsley, since we're talking about Bob Marley. Going back to Kingsley Benedict doing Malcolm X and Obama, those two figures specifically, their Americanness was very important to their overall experience, right? Accomplishing the things that they did, and then their treatment while accomplishing the things that they did. Specifically, the idea that Malcolm X was murdered while searching for, equality and justice and civil rights and all that stuff, and all of the problems that Obama had and still has while he was climbing the political ranks, and then post, leaving the presidential office. And I think that despite how good of, and I think this ties into the conversation with Bob Marley, you can be the best actor in the world, but a lot of what matters in a portrayal is also the understanding of the circumstances around that person's life and the decisions that they made.
I do want to say really quickly, I 100% agree with you, and that reminded me of another point I wanted to make, was that this is another problem with biopics, is that you guys are fine doing the bare minimum to get this movie out. And Kingsley Benedict, you're right, he's an amazing actor. He's a great actor, but there is a separation in his experience. When he looks at Bob Marley, he admires him as the icon, as the legend. When you have a Jamaican man playing Bob Marley, he admires him as a Jamaican. Because Jamaicans were directly impacted by Bob Marley's legacy, his impact, his voice, his political opinion, his advocacy. They know who he is deeply because that's their man. They know everything about that man. I'm sure there are Jamaicans who like to pretend like Bob Marley is their cousin because everybody knows who Bob Marley is.
And I think something else that's really interesting about it is that even the exploration of the music in the movie, right? Like this is supposed to kind of talk about how reggae became like how it gained influence and power as its own art form, separate and distinct from other musical forms pioneered by Black people, right? I think that even in that, the film kind of just, that didn't matter, right? It just is what it is, and none of the building of how this became popular and why reggae took off and why and I think that wouldn't have been missed if the actor, and I think that's why it's important just to tie all that in. I think if the actor portraying the character has a deeper understanding of why these things matter and these factoids matter, then they have the ability to say, hey, as a native Jamaican, or as somebody with Jamaican history, or as somebody with XYZ experience, I would give this section of the film more weight. I
Yeah.
would spend more time with this. And instead, you get somebody who maybe doesn't have that same connection, and they're just like, I can do the best job I can embodying this person because he did, but I can't tell you when to slow it down, or
Mm-hmm.
when the parts don't really matter as much, or when we need to just to spend more time and more, I don't know, just give it more depth, right? Like
Right.
yeah, I really, and I think also they really just tried to cram too much of the random like factoids about Bob Marley into this film. Like, okay, we mentioned that he loves soccer. That's great, love that, adore that. They talk about how he wanted to tour Africa. They talk about how he kind of didn't pay attention to his health, which is what eventually leads to his death.
Mm-hmm.
But considering that this is only supposed to be like a span of like a short little bit of his life experience, I didn't really need to know any of that, right?
Yeah.
Like I didn't need to know about how much he loves soccer. I didn't need to hear about, oh, I went to tour Africa. I
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to hear about any of that. I want you to focus on what's important in that little 2 to 3 year span of time that we're supposed to be talking about. And I think that somebody with more experience or more of an understanding of Bob Marley the person and not just the icon, like you said,
Yeah.
probably would have been like, yeah, we need to hammer in on this. I think it just doesn't, it gives you a lot of information about Bob Marley, right? But
Yeah.
it doesn't really kind of focus in on the journey. And I
That's
think
right.
that, yeah, I think that happens a lot in these situations with biopics.
You are very much correct. And I feel like that also falls onto the writer and the director, but it's such a strange task to give to a writer to write
Mm-hmm.
the script of someone's life that has been so well documented and
Mm-hmm.
foretold and so like Bob Marley. Everybody knows who Bob Marley is. So to try to wrap his life up in like an hour, less than 2 hours, really, that's a daunting task. And it's hard for writers to come up with anything original or insert something different or insert something that someone hasn't already seen in his music and in his work. Like, there's nothing that you can do that's going to really like make any different of an impact than this person has already made. And
Mm-hmm.
you are right. Like, there are times where you're watching a biopic and certain moments in this person's life should be focused on more. Like, there should be a deeper lens into what this is and why this is. And it's Bob Marley, and it's also like, Rocket Man, which is one biopic that I've seen that I absolutely love because Elton John was so involved in the making of this film as it is his own life. And you can tell that a lot in the film is like very transparent. And I feel like Taron Egerton does an amazing job portraying Elton John, and a lot of people compare it to Bohemian Rhapsody, which makes sense to do so because, like you said before, the film One Love focuses more on Bob Marley and his life, less so on his bandmates. With Bohemian Rhapsody, the other band members who were still alive had written their contracts that they would have as much screen time as Freddie Mercury did, which is ridiculous because why do you want to compete with your dead bandmate? But Freddie Mercury is the lead man of Queen. He is the front man. Like, we want to know all about him. Like, he's literally a queer man who died of AIDS. And we don't really get a time where we get to know him, like, truly, or any time to, like, really understand who he is. And there's only
Mm-hmm.
one scene where he goes back to his old home. And it's, like, this very quiet and solemn scene where he's kind of, like, reminiscing on his own life. But that's the only moment in the film where you truly get to know anything deeper about him, because like they spend like a good amount of time in that movie describing how they wrote Bohemian Rhapsody. It's like, babe, y'all have a
They took
number of
the
other
title a little too
songs.
seriously. Took the title a little bit too seriously.
Yeah.
Again, I think that is an example of where like the lead actor was incredible. Rami Malek
Mm-hmm.
was incredible.
Yes.
Did a great job with Freddie Mercury's like mannerisms and his stage presence and all of that stuff. But yeah, they first of all they took a we all there were a lot of creative liberties taken with that film that we like know of, because like again, when somebody is that famous, it is almost impossible not to be able to look back and be like, that's not how that happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what it did. And then
Yeah.
I think because they were so focused on dealing with Queen as a band as opposed to Freddie as a person, which is what it was supposed to be, that a lot of the treatment of Freddie Mercury as a character, as a person, not a character, let me not say that, was superficial, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we had to spend so much time dealing with, okay, so what was going on with Queen and how are they friendly with, Freddie, and what impacted their friendship with Freddie. Like I don't even think they talked about really Freddie's experiences as a queer person and how that would have shaped his music and his
Mm-hmm.
life and all. And it just, yeah, very surface level. And I think that because of the involvement, the pacing was also kind of like ooh,
Yeah.
like it was like uneven.
Yeah.
Like, so a lot of the stuff was like kind of, let's rush through these moments or let's gloss over these. And
Mm-hmm.
because, like, remember way back in the beginning of this conversation, you pointed out like how they kind of like structure it so you get the meteoric rise and you get the fall and then you kind of get like the bump back up. And
Mm-hmm.
they chose to kind of sanitize, my favorite word about biopics.
Hmm.
Biopic. They chose to sanitize it for in favor of like that traditional pacing. And maybe that's polling well with audiences. Maybe test audiences are more in favor of that type of structure, and maybe that's why they keep structuring them that way. But for me personally, yeah, yeah.
I did want to also add, because I don't remember exactly what you had mentioned before, but it made me think of this thing that I was writing down in the notes. Basically, that like biopics are competing with popular culture because, like we
Oh,
already stated, when you make a biopic or a movie about an already popular figure, like let's say Princess Diana, people
oh,
already know so much about her that to make a biopic about her, you really have to be able to like hit the nail on the head. And so often than not, studios focus on how much does this actor look like the person they're portraying, and
yep,
how close can we get to replicating such huge moments in their life or their career that it's almost like a side by side comparison. It's like you're actually there. Like it's a biopic, but it feels like a documentary. Like it could be the real thing. Like it's like reenactment almost. Like when Freddie Mercury performs at Live Aid, and they even have the Coca-Cola cup on the piano in the same position as it is in the actual live performance. That is what they're trying to achieve because they want
yep,
people to tap into that. They want to tap into the biopic and not tap into like an actual representation of who this person is. And I don't remember which actor it was and for what movie, but I had watched an interview that someone had did where people were like, the interviewer was basically asking like a very innocuous question, like, "Oh, what do you think about fans that watch biopics and they feel like some things are left out or some things are rushed through and they want to like learn more about the character and they want to learn more about the person and they like watch the film, to learn more about this person and they feel like some things are missing." And the actor was like, "I mean, you could just do your own research. Like you can watch the movie. We want you to watch the movie, but also like do your own research." And for me, I feel like okay, this is a thing. I don't know why I just learned this, but general audiences are kind of stupid. Like so many
uh-huh.
people didn't know that like Mean Girls was a musical. I've talked about this on every podcast I've had. I'll keep talking about this. How did you not know? How did you not do your Google? A lot of people thought Wonka was a remake.
Listen,
Babe, it's very
listen,
obviously a prequel. Very obviously so.
listen.
And I don't want to be too mean because my social media manager, she made the same mistake. And girl, I love you, but like, it's very obviously a prequel. So general audiences are
One
not
of
going to go out of their way
my
to learn more about a person. They'll watch the movie and be like, "Oh, that's what happened," and then that's it.
Yeah, one of my biggest complaints lately has been the lack of media literacy that we are seeing, just
Ooh.
like full frontal right in the face, like, oh, y'all didn't understand any of that, huh?
Mm,
you got
girl.
you got none of that.
Mm. With Dune 2 coming
Yeah,
out, everybody
and i
keeps throwing
think
that
i
word
think
around, and I can't keep up.
but I think that, like, I think a part of it is just that we have forgotten how to research, right? Like, yeah, you can
Yes.
tell people to do their own research, but people are, especially now, people are just really all about taking what they see at face value, as opposed to, that doesn't feel right. Let me do my own, like, digging and see what I find. So the invest because back in the day when I used to watch biopics, it very much was, oh, this was such an interesting glimpse of this person. Let me go learn more, because that was what I wanted to do. I
Mm-hmm.
was very invested in the glimpse that you gave me into this person's life. And so I'm going to spend my own time trying to learn more about them. But
Yeah.
now it's just like, I absolutely 100% believe that this was a perfect example of this person's entire life in 2.5 hours, and I don't need to know anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that quite interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I also find it interesting who they select to be in biopics, because
Mm,
oftentimes than not, like, it's an actor that like some people know but not a lot of people know. And I feel like it's clear with like the biopics that I've seen come out, or the biopics that are coming out, that these actors, like, they're good actors, but they want to get the Oscar, or at least the
hmm.
Golden Globe. And
Yeah,
I don't want to say easiest, but what is another way that I can get this and not have to do too much work? You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like we're not going.
biopics are pretty much across the debate.
Yeah, like they don't want to go like Viola Davis in Fences. They want to be like, let me get that, let me hold that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're pretty much this is this they have almost they've turned into like Oscar bait. Absolutely, 100%. You can pretty much tell when a show or a film, should I say, is gearing up to be the next in the line of nominations for. I don't have we had a film that wasn't at least semi autobiographical. I think almost every year for like a while, maybe since Ray, I think, which was 2004. I think every year since then, at least one of the films has been semi autobiographical that was nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah.
I think it's gotten that formulaic, right? Which, okay, fine. Okay,
Right.
do what you do. But I would just really love to see more creativity. I want to
Mm-hmm.
see more. I want to learn more. I just want more. I want more.
Honestly, I feel
I
like
want more.
I really need the biopic to die out, especially because
Oh,
the Amy Winey the no Amy Winehouse biopic is coming out this year, and as someone who loves Amy Winehouse, I am like very disappointed in this, because
mm,
the actress who's playing Amy Winehouse is in the show on HBO. It's called Industry. I love this show. If you watch Succession, you should watch Industry, because people who love Succession, like the family dynamic, the business talk that you don't understand, Industry has all of that, but it's a bunch of like fresh out of college kids trying to make it in this like booming financial industry that handles like millions upon billions of dollars. And all these people do is like fight. They're besties, and then they hate each other. They sleep with each other. They do drugs. Like a lot of things happen. And like the first episode, I will say it's very slow, but I need you to finish the first episode, because once you finish it, they hit the ground running, girl, and they don't stop. Because by the time you get to season 2, that's when it really hits a fan. Because that's after COVID, and then they're like, these people are rabid. These people are hungry, and I cannot wait for season 3. Because once season 3 comes out, I don't know how I'm gonna handle it. My brain's gonna explode. Like that light skinned girl who was in Bodies, Bodies,
oh,
Bodies, and who wasn't Amandla. She's in Industry. She kills in that show. She is everything. When you saw her Bodies, 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 and she was eating Rachel up, I was like, yes, that's my girl. I know her.
I I unironically think, especially now that we have streaming services in the format that we do, that
Uh,
I am fine with the continuation of biopics
mm.
if we can kind of give them, like I would serialize it.
No,
I would serialize it.
no, I really need biopics to die out, because I don't want there to be an Amy Winehouse biopic. You know what I mean? Like Amy Winehouse, she dealt with enough while she was alive, and now that she's passed away,
I can agree with that.
what can you cover in her life that we don't already know? And why are you even covering her life? Because if we have not learned from Britney, then when will you learn? You cannot
I
keep redigging up people's lives and then using it
I
for content.
I live in fear of the day that they make a Britney Spears biopic.
I
Like
need Britney and her knives to visit
it
Warner
is
Brothers. I need her to
it's my
visit
worst.
Searchlight Pictures. I need her to visit Lionsgate. I need her to be at their door. Ted Sarandos needs to
It,
be in fear of Britney Spears
it's
and her
it's
knives.
yeah, it's my worst because I know, like the thing, I know somebody's already written the script, right? Like they're
No.
just waiting for the quote unquote ending. I know that somebody is sitting on this script,
Oh
and
my God.
I can't do it. I'm so afraid. I'm so afraid. I've never been more afraid of anything because I, I just feel like people don't know how to be sympathetic
No,
to like we know people don't know how to be sympathetic
not
to
truly.
Britney's. Am I frozen? That was crazy. Um we
Just a
know
little
that
bit.
people don't know how to be sympathetic to Britney's situation. Yeah, I'm so yeah, that's my worst fear.
This
I don't hate the biopic. I can live with it, but I'm very much a documentary girl. So yeah.
I can live without it, if I'm being so perfectly honest, because I made like I tried to watch Blonde, the Netflix biopic that was made about Marilyn Monroe, and I was just like,
Yeah.
I'm curious because I love Ana de Amas. I love her so much, and I was like, let's see what it's giving. And I've talked about this before on the podcast, and I'll say it again. That was a huge mistake on my part because the
Mm-hmm.
because I did not do my research properly because the book that they based the biopic on is a book written by a lady who did not know Marilyn Monroe but wrote about her through the assumptions that she had through the public opinion of Marilyn Monroe. And also, it was produced by Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt, I'm
Who
on
we
your
know can't be
ass.
trusted.
I'm on your ass.
We
I
know he can't be
got you.
trusted. He's kind of
Okay.
crazy. Yeah, I, I see Marilyn Monroe is actually a good example of this. First of all, I think that Britney will probably wind up getting the Marilyn treatment, and that is because we commodify celebrities as objects,
Mm-hmm.
again for our consumption, as opposed to people, right? And so even in their tragedies, it's okay. How can I consume this? As opposed to how do I empathize with this? How do I feel sympathy for this person? How do I understand that this was somebody who a lot of bad things happened to, because that's the way the industry works, and
Mm-hmm.
who was taken advantage of severely, even in her death. I think about Marilyn all the time, and the way that Hugh Hefner had himself interned so that he's facing her. He's upside down so that he is laying on top of her, facing her. And I think that that is just one more example of the ways in which, a men should not exist. But yeah, I think that's one more example of the ways in which we treat these people as commodities instead of people. And I think that that is my biggest issue with
Mm-hmm.
biopics. If I were to narrow this conversation down to like one thing, one reason why we need to get rid of the genre, it would be that.
Yeah.
It would be that for we've forgotten. And I think that's really interesting, because one of my big things right now is that I actually think we're living in an age where celebrity is dying, right?
Yeah.
uh, I think we are literally watching the end of celebrity. I think that I don't think there are any real celebrities left, with the exception of maybe a Beyonce. And I think a part of that is because the current celebrities are too accessible to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's another reason why maybe biopics don't feel as good as they used to way back in the olden days. It's to like maybe before social media, biopics the way that we're being given them now, maybe that would work.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe before we had 24/7 access to these people, and we were able to like immediately look up these factoids and tidbits about their lives, and we didn't have instant recall on YouTube or Google or TikTok or Twitter about what you were doing last week, and before celebrities were calling the paparazzi on themselves.
Right.
Maybe maybe the biopics that we're getting now, those would play off better.
Mm-hmm.
But because we don't have real celebrity anymore, and so many of these people just feel like, yeah, I know who you are, I see you on the street. Like
Right.
there's nothing mysterious about you, there's no mystique, there's nothing else for me to uncover about you, because
Mm-hmm.
you've already shared it all with the world. I think, yeah, yeah, we've forgotten, we treat them as commodities, and yet at the same time, or maybe because they are commodities and their brand is to be a commodity, things like biopics, which are supposed to give you a glimpse behind the door, just lose their mystique, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's why they're not as effective.
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree with you because I feel like we're also seeing this with so many people not being able to like just live. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
everything has been getting so expensive due to inflation and wage stagnation. And also due to the fact that like wages are not going up, things are becoming more expensive. And there are so many cities and states across the US that are criminalizing homelessness. And then you go on your
Yeah.
phone to try and like like try and like drown out the noise, and then next thing you know, you see like Kim Kardashian walking around in like a sweatsuit that costs as much as your rent, and she just drops that amount of money just casually, and you no longer are
Mm-hmm.
interested and intrigued and fascinated by her lifestyle and who she is, but now you are annoyed and upset because she is living this
Mm-hmm.
fabulous lifestyle that she has earned off of, you know, making these products and these like have created these companies, and a lot of these things are made out of like, you know, warehouse like unpaid labor, and you're looking at this and you feel like this is unfair, like this is not right to you. So you're
Mm-hmm.
right, there has been like the death of celebrity in this day and age, and I feel like a lot of people are not like idolizing celebrities in the same way. And before, you can like admire someone from their work and their talent and what they bring to the table and their personality, and you're right, there was this era of mystique behind it, and biopics kind of like help lift that up in a way. And now that celebrities are accessible to us, like they're on Instagram Live every other day. They're like tweeting out all their emotions and their thoughts and their feelings. They want to go on Club Shay Shay, or they want to go Drink Champions, and it's like y'all talk too much, you know.
Yeah, you communicate with me far too easily. I don't need to know all
Yes.
of this.
Yes, it's kind of like killed the
Mm-hmm.
appeal of it all. And I feel like a lot
Mm-hmm.
of celebrities have done that in a way to seem like more human and more personable and more down to earth. But a lot of it has bit people in the butt because we would be better off not knowing anything about you. And quite frankly, some of y'all share way too much with us. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
yeah, it's annoying. And I feel like another thing that I don't like about biopics is that I mentioned the actors, and I don't mean this in a way that's like rude or harsh, because a lot of actors who have been in biopics are very talented. Like Naomi Aki, I think she's a really great
Mm-hmm.
actress, but there is an appeal to embodying a legend and an icon in a film. Because when somebody goes to look up this movie or goes to look up something about Whitney Houston, they will see the biopic I Will Always Love You and recognize Naomi Aki in this biopic. And then someone will come up to her and be like, "You were so good playing Whitney Houston in that movie." Like, "Oh, thank you." Like, you don't have to be the icon. You don't have to be the legend. You don't have to be the person on the pedestal. You can instead emulate this person and then gain recognition off of that, which will then boost your career because people will
Mm-hmm.
see, look how closely she is like this icon that y'all mistreated when she was around. And then, you know,
Yep.
hope to gain some recognition from it to catapult their career. Because Rami Malek was already a good actor, and I loved Mr. Robot. But Bohemian Rhapsody and then him winning an Academy Award absolutely put him on the map.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's some.
Easily, quickly.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've found very annoying about it because I understand that like in acting is hard and finding jobs it's not easy. It's a struggle. You know, Ayo Edebri is taking all these jobs and ain't nobody can find no work. You know, she's
The
snatching them up.
Scottish princess. The Scottish princess is she's
Yes,
getting in there. Okay.
Irish
Wait, is she
girl.
Scottish or Irish? The Irish princess. Yeah.
Scottish.
Yeah. I love that for her though. Get your money, get your coins.
Get
You
your
got to strike.
bag.
And I think, well, to speak on that though, I think that's probably why they keep taking these roles that may or may not be for them. Because like when you're an actor, you kind of got to strike when the iron is hot, right? Like if I miss my opportunity, who knows when I'll get work next? This might be the only work that I get for the next 20 years. And if it's gonna make me enough money, this is the job I'm gonna take. So
Right.
I kind of get it. I kind of
Yeah.
get it. But yeah, I would be very interested in now that we've had this conversation, I said I was like on, I guess I felt like I was kind of on the fence about whether or not we should continue to have biopics. But I think that now that we've had this conversation, I can kind of say I would be okay with the end of them.
Yeah.
I yeah, I can say it. I very much, and I already know that I love a documentary. So give me the behind the scenes. And I think going back to my comment about Beyonce being like maybe our last true celebrity, I think that the reason why Beyonce documents so much of her life, right, is so that when it's time to make the inevitable biopic or like the end of her story, right? When it's time
Mm-hmm.
to publicize her story in that way, I already feel very confident that she is going to be the one to control that rollout. And it won't be a biopic. It'll probably be like, this is a documentary pieced together from the video footage that I've basically been recording of my
Mm-hmm.
entire life this whole time. And I think I would enjoy that more than what we're currently getting.
And that's one
Um,
thing that I do admire about Beyonce, because like I'm someone who doesn't always tap into like celebrity culture. Like I try to stay out of it as much as I can. Like blind items, I used to read a lot, and now I'm just like, no, 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 girl, that's not good for you. But one thing I admire about Beyonce is because of her work ethic and her talent and everything that she has done since she was in them stilettos at 15 years old, as she said in Diva. She has been
mhm.
working, grinding, honing her talent and her artistry. And that's why she has these documentaries about how she, made Coachella, about how she created Black is King, The Gift, how she did Renaissance, the tour. She has these documentaries to show people the work behind the curtain. And these artists and these legends, they oftentimes don't get the chance to really show people all the work that goes behind everything they do, because whatever the chance might be. And when these biopics come out, it's not an accurate representation. So when Beyonce puts out these documentaries, she's revealing like, this is how I do it. This is who I am. This is my artistry. Like, this is me. I'm letting y'all know, like, this is what it is. And I would love to see like, a full documentary about her life. I think that would be great. And I know that like, oh my gosh, God forbid, I don't want to think about the day when Beyonce's not here anymore. But of course, 20 years after that happens, there will be some person who will be like, I
Tries.
can make a Beyonce biopic, and we will have the evidence to show where they are wrong, to show where they strayed from the truth, and to show where they want to take their own creative liberties. Because Beyonce said, listen, you want to copy my work, but you can't because you're not me. I'm the
I think
director, I'm the executive producer, and I'm in that editing booth too. So don't even try me, all right? I
I
got the
think
receipts.
I think interestingly enough that a part of why Beyonce keeps giving us like these little documentaries is to satisfy the craving for like a documentary style or a biopic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't need a biopic about Beyonce because every so often she lifts up the veil, she
Yes.
gives you something, and it's behind the scenes and it's not. And I think the thing that she does really masterfully is that she makes sure that the focus is on her artistry, right?
Mm-hmm.
But she gives you like these little peeks into her family life
Yeah.
and like her kids. You get to see all of that and a part of how that impacts her as an artist and as a person. And even something else that she does really well, she didn't do it for Renaissance, but like on the run, for example, she incorporated like actual home video footage into the screens in the background of the show. So
Mm-hmm.
she feeds people in a way that it encourages people to want to engage with her more, but it
Mm-hmm.
also kind of satisfies, right, that craving for more. I want more, I
Mm-hmm.
want more. And that way she continues to control the narrative, which is again another one of the reasons why I say she's probably like our last real celebrity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, Stevie Wonder is in that list. I sometimes, I forget about Stevie, but I think like people in that who grew up or who came up in that time period, and then people who are, and then Beyonce.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably everybody else is just get out of my face. You're too
Yeah.
accessible. I want less of you. Like I want
Yeah.
to crave you. I want more of you, but you don't give me the opportunity. Like absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? That's it right
Yes.
there. You don't leave me enough for me to actually be like, I would be interested in seeing more of you.
Mm-hmm. I do agree
Yeah.
with you. Like Beyonce is like the celebrity of celebrities, and in my
Yes.
mind, there are like
Susan.
a couple of it girls. There's like in me for me, there's Zendaya and like Jenna Ortega. I feel like those are
Yeah.
like two big it girls, especially for like younger people. And I do agree with you on how like Beyonce's very intentional with what
Mm-hmm.
she reveals to us, which I appreciate. And I cannot help but think about in 2014 when she went to the Met Gala and Solange Knowles took her shoes off and let Jay-Z have it. And everybody was like, why did Solange beat Jay-Z? Why did that
And we
happen?
still don't know. We still don't know.
Listen, we can only
We still don't.
assume from Lemonade and 444, we can only assume now. But you know what she never did? She never sat down on no couch at no red table to clear nothing up. Because y'all don't really need to know what goes on in my house. I got it. They can
Mm-hmm. And
only.
she walked out of that elevator smiling.
Yeah. She was sitting there like, I ain't
Yeah.
got to do nothing. That's my girl. We from Texas.
Yeah.
Listen. Okay. I
Yeah.
also I think about that a lot. I love that. Um, okay. There was one other thing that I did want to talk about. So people have been kind of like throwing around the idea, gosh, this is so annoying, of a Michael Jackson biopic, and I feel like that's really where like the buck has to stop, because Michael Jackson,
Oh,
he was very much an icon, like king of pop. There was no other. We can all agree on that, you
there
know.
will never.
But
Yeah.
his personal life,
It's not even an idea though. Like it's a real thing, yo.
guys,
It's a real thing.
we cannot do
Yeah,
it. And
it's got
they keep throwing the idea around. That's the thing. They keep throwing the idea around, especially in the shade room. In the
no,
shade room,
they're
like
filming. I promise you.
what?
I promise you they're filming right now. Yeah, it's got his nephew Jafar
Hold on.
Jackson is playing Michael. It's they are I'm pretty sure that they're filming. So his nephew, and that I think it even has a release date. I think it's next year, but yeah. So Jafar Jackson is playing Michael, and then I know Lorenz Tate is in it. I know Kat Graham is in it.
Girl,
Coleman Domingo, yeah, Nia Long. Like it's got a stacked cast. It's got a very high profile
hold
cast.
on.
But
Hold on.
mhm,
Antoine
mhm,
Fuqua from Equalizer,
mhm,
Equalizer 2, and Equalizer 3 is directing the
mhm.
2025 Michael Jackson biopic titled Michael.
See, I told you.
What?
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm so curious because
They
I'm.
are, yeah, I knew they were currently filming because I've been seeing pictures of people in costume. And I think that that is one person who probably we should just let rest because um, so much of his life was ruined by celebrity. And I hate that and I think a part of that is just like when you are the celebrity and you
Mm-hmm.
are the moneymaker in your family and you always have been, you have to continue being that moneymaker after you die. And I think that that's what we're seeing with people like Michael and even Whitney specifically. Like those two, I think what we see in the production of films and television shows, and with Whitney, for example, the hologram that they had of her recently,
Oh
I
my
think all of that is about.
gosh.
hmm I think all of that is about making sure that the family who was living off of those people in life is still able to do so after they die. And I think there's even been rumors about something going on with Prince. I don't know if it's a biopic, but I do think that there was like, oh, there's unreleased music that we're going to release now, which I know for a fact Prince was very open about not like when I die, and that's it. And yet, the people who he entrusted with his legacy and his, his story and his wants, they are saying, oh, well, because I need some money. So I think that's another thing that we need to consider when we talk about biopics, and maybe something that we should have considered when we were talking about Bob Marley.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a part of the reason why that story was made was because people needed a little bit of extra funds, and that's how they chose to get it.
That is so disappointing because you know people will try and mask it as a way of keeping their legacy alive. Or, you know,
Mhm.
these is something they worked on, something they created. Why wouldn't I share this with the world? To try and make people feel bad for shaming them about sharing unreleased work. And that's also like something I find incredibly annoying, especially with the hologram thing with Whitney Houston, because I think
Mm,
that's very disrespectful to her legacy. Because Whitney Houston was the voice. Like, she was like one of the greatest vocalists of our time. We were so lucky to have her when she was alive.
oh,
And for
the
you
voice.
to create a electronic rendition of who she is, I find that to be incredibly disrespectful to her talent, to her legacy, to her life, to her impact. I find that to be incredibly disrespectful and honestly just unnecessary and very much gross. Like, every single person behind this decision, I would show it all line up in front of my house so we can talk. Because I don't even understand what your issue is. But I find that to be so deeply, like, gross.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah. I think again, like I said before, I think that there just has to come a moment. And I think the thing about it is when you say, oh, I don't want their legacy to die, I think like these people are so influential and so impactful that it's almost
Mm-hmm.
impossible for their legacy to die, right?
It's
Like
impossible.
they can't leave, they don't get to leave and for people like Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston, they don't get to leave like the mythos, right? Like these people have ascended to these, especially because as often happens when people die young, you just kind of become enshrined as like, you know, this tragic figure who was also incredibly successful, incredibly popular, incredibly talented. And the impact that you had on the industry and the lives of people who still exist in the industry is undeniable and unshakable. So I don't see a world in which those people would have ever kind of like disappeared into the background of modern culture, I guess I would say, because so much of their work laid the groundwork for what is now modern culture. But what if maybe 200 years from now I'll be wrong and people will be like, the only reason why I know Michael Jackson is because of that documentary or that biopic they did in 2025. Like maybe I'm wrong and the music won't survive. It'll be that biopic with his nephew playing him, or that or that movie with Flex. That movie where
Oh
Flex
my
played.
gosh.
Maybe
I
that.
okay, I have to say I did watch a TikTok of his daughter. Like his daughter got a comment from someone. I was like, why was he in that movie? And she asked her dad, like, why were you in that movie? And he basically said, like, I had a check. I need a check. I had a family. Like, they had to
Now
eat.
see, that's why a lot of them are doing it. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
need some money. And as an actor, sometimes it's hard out here. You gonna hire me for this job? I'm gonna take the job. Gotta do
Yeah.
what I gotta do. Yeah, I can see it. I hope that I'm wrong, but we'll see 200 years in the future what people are talking about as it relates to Michael Jackson and whether or not it's the music or the biopic.
Yeah. I think a lot about um, what it means to be like a celebrity and what it means to be this person, the public figure who is admired for your work, your talent, or whatever it is that, grants you this fame and success. And then the pitfalls of it, how people assume these things about you that aren't true, or how the people around you will, present themselves as people who are reliable and trustworthy. And it's either whether you're alive or in your death that they betray you or they seek out something that is for their own personal gain that in turn hurts you and hurts your name. And it's really frustrating to see that, especially like as a fan, because I know I don't know this person and I don't understand them. I didn't have that closeness to them. But I honestly, sincerely feel like I could say that if I had a friend of mine who became like famous to the point that me next to them brought me a proximity of fame, I wouldn't betray that for like $100,000 and just to like get my name in like Entertainment Weekly or something like that, because I find that to be very very frustrating. If I was someone who's like a famous actress and I pass away and I find out that like somebody released a movie that I did
Coming back.
before I passed away, and then
I'm
like,
coming back.
listen, don't do it. Like, don't even CGI my body in there. Just like leave me be. You
I'm on
know,
the way back right now because why would you do
I'm on the
that?
midnight train to Georgia, and you're gonna see me there. You gonna see me at the
Listen,
foot of your
you,
bed.
you, you're not knowing no rest for the rest of your life because why would you do that?
And it makes me
Yeah.
think of when you talked about like Whitney Houston and I think Prince and how his estate released music. It reminded me
Mhm.
of Mac Miller and how like a
Mm,
lot of people who had produced music with him were releasing more music. And some people
mhm.
say that it was like already available and they just re-released it on Spotify. But whatever the case may be, I really wish that Swimming was his last album because I feel like so many songs in there really encapsulated how he was feeling in that time. And it was so hard because I was a huge Mac Miller fan when I was younger. And I loved his music. And I loved Swimming. And it was so sad, like just days after he released that album, that he had passed away. And it was something that was like such a shock. And to see like, oh, Spotify give you a notification, Mac Miller just released new music. It's like, why? He's not here anymore. The only album I'm listening to is Swimming. Like all this other music you guys keep releasing, like he's not there to approve this release because he's not here with us. And that's
Mhm.
hard to see. And I understand like I'm a fan, so maybe I'm being a little parasocial, but like I feel like you should just leave
No,
it on the hard drive. As much as
I
fans miss
actually,
him.
I,
Sorry, I cut you
I
off.
actually think that's no, you're fine. I actually think that statement is kind of the opposite of a parasocial relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like recognizing that I think parasocial relationships demand more access to
Yeah.
artists and celebrities. And I think that is like this never ending cycle of, because I support you, you owe me XYZ, and I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
take XYZ by any means necessary. I think that what you said, that we should not be continuing to release media from these deceased artists is, it reminds, is respecting that person as a person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like acknowledging, because as a non-celebrity in my death, knock on wood, but in my death, I don't get to live outside of the mark that I'm currently leaving on this earth, right? And I think the temporariness of life is what makes it valuable. I think that this capsulized moment that we have to share ourselves and our lives and our experiences and our talents with the world is why it's important and why it's engaging and why it's exciting to be in these spaces with these people. If you take away the limited editionness of that and you just continue to pump out, oh, new music and new films and new whatever, what about that person was special? What did we actually lose? What is missing from this world now that this person is no longer here if you continue to inundate me with this person? So yeah, I think I think how to say, I think that kind of like this continuing release of material actually kind of, it takes away the humanness of celebrities. I guess I just keep
Mm-hmm.
coming back to that point, right? We're taking away the
Yes.
human people because humanity is meant to be brief, and that is what makes it so valuable. That's what
Mm-hmm.
makes life valuable. And when you continue to produce stuff after death, like, where is the value?
They
I
want
think
to
for me.
immortalize these figures.
Mhm. Without realizing that they've already been immortalized, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is the crazy part. I think we've forgotten what that actually means, right? Like the Greek gods are not even real people, and yet they have been immortalized in myth for centuries at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just because people didn't like create new stories about them. I mean, technically, you have like the Rick Riordans of the world or whatnot who are technically creating new stories. But even in his new stories, all he's doing is just retelling the old myths in a way that's palatable for kids, right? Like we're not creating new stories around Zeus and the pantheon and whoever. We're just continuing to tell the same stories that were already there. And that's what created immortality. I
Right.
think nowadays we've forgotten that immortality is not about continuing to release something and continuing to have a new and thriving presence. It's about making an impact that is so undeniable that people continue to talk about you even after you've been gone for forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that. And it's clear, like what you said before, that like a lot of studios, a lot of people look at celebrities as like money printing machines. So when they're not around,
Mm-hmm.
they lose their source of income and they have to do whatever they can to gain it back, which is incredibly disappointing and disheartening to see that, you know, because you already spend so much of your life in the public eye being betrayed by like, you know, journalists and like general opinion of people, and then those closest to you then turn their back to you to like profit off of you even when you're dead. Like you can't even like lay to rest. There's no rest for you because they keep trying to shake some money
when
at
I
you.
when I say I could talk about that forever, because that is a big part of like what happened with like the SAG strike earlier, right? Like this
Yeah.
fight against AI and things like that,
Oh,
and like
girl.
studios having actors sign contracts where it's just like basically I get to use your voice and your image in perpetuity even after you die. It's exactly what you said.
Mm,
You are not a person. You are not an individual. You are something for me to be able to use whenever I want to. Thank you so much. Sign the
right.
dotted line. Yes.
I
Mm-hmm.
th-
You're
and
100% right.
it's even more frustrating when it's someone that is recognized and someone who is very impactful, and then they want to take your image but misrepresent your words. And I feel like that's why, like, you know, we talked about this in our initial video call, but with Billy Porter doing like the James Baldwin biopic,
Ooh,
you know that's not
ooh,
going to work because James Baldwin
ooh.
is such an amazing man. But the thing about James Baldwin is that he's a well read, educated man. And I feel like with Billy Porter, we are now seeing like the cracks in like who he really is as a person, because he did very well on Pose. He's a great actor, you know, he's a great
Oh,
performer,
amazing.
entertainer. But as we've learned more about him, as we've seen more about him in the public eye, we realize that this man is not a man of character, really, because he hit back
Nope.
at critics who said that it shouldn't be him to star and write this James Baldwin biopic. And he said, you know, people have doubted me my whole life. You can call it what it is, arrogant. And he essentially went on this kind of like rant talking about how people may doubt me, but I'm going to prove you wrong. And I find it hard to prove people wrong when they are appropriately calling out what they see right in front of them. And you're not really trying to sway what people see, but you're trying to sway their, you know, dismissal of your talent, or they're like somehow
Mm-hmm.
they don't see that you're a talented actor. Like you can't pull this off. Like you can't play James Baldwin the same way that Naomi Aki played Whitney Houston and Rami Malek played Freddie Mercury. And you are trying to portray these people as characters, but they're not characters. They're people. And you see James
I think,
Baldwin doing this
I
biopic as a way to finally get your Oscar. And baby girl, let me tell you something. That EGOT is not coming your way. All right? You keep comparing yourself to Viola
I,
Davis. You are
I think it's
not
just
that
another.
girl.
I think it's just another example of the ego being more important than, the truth and the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
It's just one more example where, again, James Baldwin, an incredible person, incredible author, an incredible voice, right? And it's just one more example of commodification for
Mm-hmm.
personal gain, for personal enjoyment. You you were great when you were alive, but now how can I use you to become more successful? And I think it's an interesting point that we're seeing people do that outside of even the immediate family now, right? Like James Baldwin and Billy Porter have no connection to one another, in a relationship sense, like a familiar relationship sense, and yet he still feels entitled to this work and this story as if it is his, and as if people are wrong to rightfully critique his place in that space. Yeah.
The only thing that Billy Porter
Yeah.
sees in relation to him and James Baldwin is the fact that they're both gay black men. That's it. Like that's
Yeah.
the only
That's
thing
pretty
they
much
really have in common.
that is pretty much
And
it. That's pretty much it.
it's also frustrating to see like how Billy Porter said that, like, you know, he has fully supported Israel in their occupation and genocide of Gaza and the Palestinian people. And he said that the Palestine issue is not my hill to die on, which is so ridiculous. But this is what James Baldwin says about Israel. He said that Jews and Palestinians know of broken promises. But the state of Israel was not created for the salvation of the Jews. It was created for the salvation of Western interests. This is what it is becoming. This is what is becoming clear. I must say that it was always clear to me. The Palestinians have been paying for the British colonial policy of divide and rule, and for Europe's guilty Christian conscience for more than 30 years. Finally, there's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely no hope of establishing peace in what Europe so arrogantly calls the Middle East. How in the world would Europe know, having so dismissively failed to find a passage to India without dealing with the Palestinians? The collapse of the Shah of Iran not only revealed the depths of the pious Carter's concern for human rights, it also revealed who supplied oil to Israel and to whom Israel supplied arms. It happened to be, to spell it out, white South Africa. And that's something that he wrote September 29th in the issue of The Nation in 1979.
Listen, I think that is a whole, I can talk about this forever because that's a whole another conversation about the ways in which y'all don't even agree like with these people's basic politics, and yet here you are trying to quote unquote embody them and bring life to their story. How
Mm-hmm.
can you do that? You are antithesis to everything that they stood for. Hmm?
And how are you going to properly represent this person and who they are in their likeness if it doesn't agree with you? Like you just said, like
Hmm.
you want to shape this person into who you want them to be, and then you will portray
Hmm.
them to see how closely they relate to you. That's why, Billy Porter wants to do this biopic because he doesn't really care about portraying like James Baldwin as the icon that he is.
No, absolutely
No,
not.
and that's incredibly
Absolutely not.
disappointing.
Well, I think, like I said, I think we came to the agreement earlier, the consensus that the biopic should die. And I
Yeah.
think like we've given of reasons for why why we
Mm-hmm.
should be saying goodbye to as an art form and as a medium, because it is rife with complications. It
Mm-hmm.
is a very hard to get right. And I think for a lot of people, it's just very self-serving. It's about what I can garner out of this event in this person's life, as opposed to um, how can I honor this person and how can I tell their story with truth and honor and kindness and care.
Mm-hmm. And then there's also the brand biopics that have been coming out, like Air about Nike, and then Tetris, and then like the Beanie Bubble. Like there's also gonna be, I think it's Jerry Seinfeld. He's
A Polly
making
Pocket.
what?
I heard about a Polly Pocket like film. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was an idea. After Barbie, there was like this idea that they could like do a bunch of like similar films based around popular games and toys. So
Okay, I was gonna say that I think Jerry Seinfeld is doing a Pop Tart biopic, but I didn't know one about Polly Pocket. Yeah, girl, Pop Tarts.
okay,
Yeah.
a toaster pastry.
Mm-hmm.
That's a choice.
Yes. Also, I don't know why Jerry Seinfeld is the one who's like creating this film, but I guess go off, King.
He might be bored. He might be bored. Like
They ain't
it's
doing
been a
comedians
while, so
getting
he might
coffee
just
in
be like,
cars
"What?"
no more. He ain't got nothing else to do.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
He said, I have not done anything in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get to it.
Let's spend this money.
Pretty much. If I
Yes.
had it, I don't know. I don't know what I would do if I had like excess money like that. I don't know. Maybe I too would do ridiculous stuff like make a movie about Pop Tarts.
I know I would not do that. I have better ideas. I could use my time better than that. I also feel like it's weird
I
to me.
might. I might.
Sorry, I cut you off.
No, I said I might do it. Go ahead.
Oh, I just feel like it's weird to do like brand biopics now because there have been a lot of people who are disillusioned by the American ideal of capitalism. So now they're trying to like humanize
Mhm.
brands to be like, look at this American dream that created this amazing brand.
Mhm.
You know, the same thing they did with Steve Jobs, and now they're doing it with like Air, which like I kind of understood why, because Air really did like Air was interesting because Nike really did jump off with like Michael Jordan, but
Mhm.
if it's very clear that they're trying to do this thing where it's like, oh, you know that shoe company you really like, and that's very expensive, but you kind of have to buy those shoes because like everybody's wearing them and like social pressure. This is how they were made, and look, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are in the movie, and guess who else? Viola Davis. Look, black people like sneakers. Look, it's your favorite auntie. You know?
I mean, pretty much, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's a good point that I never really thought about, the humanization of brands in order to make people kind of like buy back into like spending money
Yeah, spending money, but
on
also
these
having
brands that people are distant from.
yeah, I think it's also trying to have faith in corporations again because whenever Black History Month rolls around or whenever Pride Month rolls around, they love to throw out the shikis and the rainbow flags because if there's one thing they finna do, it's try and win the social game of look at how progressive I am, even though I know you guys underpay a lot of your workers, but that's neither here nor there.
Employees.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're employees, and I know
yeah.
I look at the I look at the politicians y'all be funding, okay, and a lot of them people do not rock with the rainbow flags. I'll tell you that right now.
Absolutely not, unless it's the month of June. That's pretty
Hmm.
much it.
Yep. Yeah. But I feel like that's all I have to say about biopics. I felt like I had more, but if I'm being perfectly honest, any time I get a chance to talk about biopics and talk about how much I don't like them, I do it anyways. So having a whole podcast dedicated to it, like, it was nothing.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, I think it's always fun to kind of like discuss the ways in which you've been let down by an
Yeah.
art form, or maybe like discuss with said art form. Like, why do you exist? Stop.
Yeah. And I'm going to be honest, there was a time where I did love biopics, but I think that's because I watched like the good ones. Like I love Ray. Ray still has a very like big place in my heart because of how much I love Jamie Foxx
Mm-hmm.
and how much I love Kerry Washington. Like that was the first time I saw her act and I was like, this
Mm-hmm.
lady is a star. You see that? You see what she did with go get hit the road jack? Yeah. She did that. She left it all
Yeah,
there.
he has a presence.
She does. She has a presence. And then Lincoln. And then when I watched Rocket Man, I kind of like that revived my faith in it because I was like, if you can appropriately and faithfully depict someone's life in a way that is sincere, authentic, and vulnerable, then I would want to watch that instead of sensationalizing it and sanitizing certain parts so that people don't have to see the bad parts of it. And if you focus on like, because I know in the Amy Winehouse biopic, they're going to focus on like her drug use, which I feel like is going to be
Yes. Very
it's not going to be something I'm going to watch because we already know like I know a lot about the drug use and like the people around her and like her relationship with music and the industry and the media and it's very difficult to do. And I know they are going to do a scene where she wins the Grammy and it's going to be her complete and utter shock and they're going to try and get that scene absolutely perfect and that's something that's going to break my heart because Amy truly did deserve that
Yep.
Grammy and for this girl to try and like come in and try and get some kind of recognition out of it is annoying. Another thing is annoying is that she's singing. She's singing her songs. And when I tell you, baby girl, if they wanted a singer, they should
I
have called Dua Lipa. I'm saying that right now. They should have hit up her line and said, girl,
they
we got something for
probably
you.
they probably
They
they
absolutely
probably
tried
couldn't
it.
afford to pay for it. So they just had
Mm,
to hope that somebody could sing it. And unfortunately it did not work out for them.
it's not working out for them. It's not. I'm so sorry.
No.
Yes. And as we wrap up, I just wanted to, go into the last segment, which is recommendations. So if you have any TV shows or movies that you've been watching recently, they would recommend to the viewers, you can feel free to do it now. I will say that I don't know if I have been watching anything new because the only thing I've actually been watching is My Hero Academia because I've been getting into anime
Ooh,
again, and I'm about to finish
love
season
it.
3. By the time this episode comes out, I'll probably be in
Oh,
season 4, but I'm about to finish season 3.
yeah, I love My Hero Academia. I was recommended it by Twitter and I just kind of fell in love. I have always been kind of like an anime girl, but I was looking for something new to watch and
Mm-hmm.
somebody recommended that to me and I was like, "Oh my god, this is excellent. I love this." So yeah, 100% on MHA. I think the thing that I am probably most excited about right now is Star Trek Discovery. This is the last season. It's on Paramount. Yeah, it's on Paramount Plus, which is the streaming service for Paramount. But I love that show so much. I fell in love with Michael, who is the lead character, a Black woman captaining a crew in space. Like, come on, be serious. And that show has my entire heart. And I'm really sad that it's going to be over soon. But yeah, I would definitely, if you haven't watched that show, I would tune into that for sure.
Okay, I do want to watch some of the Star Trek shows, but I've never
Mhm.
gotten into Star Trek. Like, I almost got into like all the fandoms, but Star Trek was never something I like took the time to watch or get into. So, with Star Trek Discovery, is there a certain place that it lies in the order of the Star Trek? No.
It actually is kind of like I would actually say that if you were to watch any Star Trek show or like you didn't know where to start, I would suggest this one easily. I think it kind of like lies in like this in between because there's time hopping and things like that. So it's pretty easy to kind of like just like join it and not have to know, the lore behind all the characters, because they kind of explain that and go over, the why this happens. And I just think it's so interesting. It's also got like more of a modern take on the classics. There are queer characters. It's just so good. It's so good. It's so good.
Okay. There was a show that I actually started rewatching that I would recommend. It's called Lovesick, and I think that in other countries on Netflix it's called Scrotal Recall, which I don't understand why it's called that, but I know it as Lovesick, and it's basically the show about a guy who finds out that he has chlamydia, and he has to call back every girl he slept with within the next 3 weeks and tell them that he has chlamydia. And it's actually a very funny show, and it's kind of heartwarming. It's actually like really, I love it. It's very endearing. It just shows like this guy's like a slut. Like he's just out here. Like the amount of girls he has to like meet up with is so funny. And there's one girl he has to like meet, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm just at this address," and they pull up to like a funeral. I'm pretty sure. So imagine going to a
Oh,
funeral in like normal day clothes and having to tell that girl, "I have chlamydia." Like you have to tell her that. It's like, what? Wait, what'd you say?
yeah. I said, and she might too. Like,
Mm,
yeah, yikes.
yeah. So he's basically like calling them in, like, so you might want to get tested, might want to check that, and like, there's a possible romance with him and his like, friend that is also a girl, and there's another guy in the friend group that is like even worse than him. Like he is an absolute sleaze. Like he's a slag, as they say in Britain, and he's
That's
just like
so funny.
he is so gross. And I actually love the show because I just started watching it randomly, but then I started rewatching it and I was like, oh, this is so much fun. Like, it's three friends, like, being adults, having a good time, not knowing what to do with their lives. Like, it reminds me of, I don't remember the show exactly. It's called Feel Good with Mae
Uh,
Whitman? Not Mae Whitman, but it's one of the white lesbian comedians who has, like, short white hair. I forget her name.
who's not Ellen?
Who's not Ellen? No, she's very much younger than her. But the show's called Feel Good, and it's kind of similar to it, except it's about a girl who falls in love with another girl, and the girl thought she was straight until she met her. So now she doesn't know what she is, and she can't tell her friends about her girlfriend because she doesn't know what's going on. And it's giving very much like, queer girl fell in love with a straight girl. What are we doing? You know what I mean? And the queer girl is very much like unstable, like needs a warm blanket and like a nap, you know.
Aren't we always?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but I just want to thank you, Aprille, for coming on the podcast. It was such a pleasure to have you on. And where can people find you?
Thank you so much for having me. Loved
Mm,
it. I'm on TikTok as always Aprille. I am on Twitter also as Aprille, but spelled a little bit funny.
mm.
So hopefully that's written down somewhere. And I am newly on Instagram in like a professional capacity. Incredible, I know, right? As the reverse of my TikTok name. So Aprille always.
Got it. Okay. Guys, you can check out Aprille on all of the things. Her links will be down in the description down below. Don't forget to follow her everywhere. Thank you so much for coming on. Once again, it was so wonderful to talk to you. This was such a great conversation because there are not many people that I could find that know this much about biopics and can have like this much of a conversation about it. The amount that I know about biopics, despite the fact that I don't like them, is crazy. Like it's on a hater kind of level.
Yeah.
So it was nice to
I'm a
talk.
proud hater. So, yeah.
Listen, if
Yeah.
you are a critic, you have to be a hater at heart.
Kind of.
You can't
I
like
think it's
everything. You
kind of like
gotta have
bred
a
and born in
disagreement.
you.
Yes. When everyone
Yeah.
else says they like something, you gotta be the
Yes.
one person to point out every single thing that's wrong. Not in the cinema sins way, but in a way that's very intelligent and sexy. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
I love I love that description.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you again for coming on. Guys, thank you so much for listening. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it may be. Don't forget to check us out on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And also, do not forget to tell your friends and family about your new favorite podcast. I've been meaning to watch that. And we will see you next week with a new topic, new guests like we do every single week. Bye.
Yeah.